This is a series of films that tells the history of contemporary fashion photography as seen through the eyes of models. Do you think modelling is a skill you've learned, or is it something you have naturally in you?
I think mostly natural, because I believe that it's something you have to really, you know, as I said, it's something you feel that's inside you that needs to come out, you know.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, it's also a business, you know, so
Yeah.
you have to learn a lot of that side of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, understand that you are a model, and not all of the time people are interested in your opinions necessarily.
Yeah.
So you just do your job.
But do you think you learnt the physical skill of modelling? Is that something, has somebody taken you aside?
No.
I often hear that, and often feel that I'll work with models who are starting out or at the beginning of their careers, and you can tell that they're not, attitude isn't quite right, and then and then they go off and they work with Stephen Meisel. And then they come back a different person.
Yeah.
And it's like, what was said? What did Stephen say to them?
That's so funny. I never had that. I never no one ever sort of mentored me as a model.
Yeah. And is it something, do other models mentor you? Do you talk to other people?
You know what, it's kind of odd, because you think that you're all these kind of pack of friends that you all kind of wander around together, but it's really not the case, you know. You meet the girls mainly on the shows, but when you're shooting, it's so kind of, you know, you're generally on your own, and then you get on a plane and go somewhere else on your own, and go somewhere else on your own. So it's not really, you know, and you rarely shoot with a lot of girls. And I think, you know, you meet people during the shows, but generally you're always just kind of on your own little journey.
Yeah. Okay, let me show you another image.
Yes.
Two
I love
images
this
from
shoot.
our pop series.
This is the first time I met you.
Yes, this is our first. And from my point of view, you modelled in a completely different way to anybody else had ever photographed.
Wow.
And continued to model that way. Nearly every time I photographed you, I picked up on that same way that you move and that you twist and turn. And it's always incredibly sensual, and also playing on a kind of slightly dark aesthetic. Do you feel that, or am I reading something into how you work?
I really feel that. It's funny because another, she's more of an artist, she's a photographer, but not fashion. And I don't know her, but she came up to me recently and she said, it's amazing because when I look at photographs of you, you feel everything through your fingers and your toes. You know, like I'm really engaged throughout my whole body. Yeah. And I feel that just in life in general, you know, and in these images you can see that I'm thinking it as well as kind of breathing it. So yeah, I would agree.
I mean, something that I often say about models when I'm asked to describe people, that they're a mixture between a sports person and an actress, in the way that they are totally able to put on some clothes, and in this case some cardboard animals, and interpret the narrative behind the designer's intention with those clothes. But also they work in a way which you would expect somebody like a gymnast or somebody who's a sports person to work, in the way that they're completely in control, as you mentioned, between your fingers and your toes, that every bit, every twist, every turn is considered and you're aware of, which is a very, very rare thing. Most people are not aware of how their bodies sit, stand and move.
Yeah.
Is that a fair description of
I would
modelling?
say that's absolutely right. Yeah, I can't speak for other girls, but for me, and it's not just when I model, I think that's just how I operate, you know?
This was a funny shoot, partly because the clothes that you were modelling were this collection that John Galliano had made from the drawings of children.
Yeah.
And of course they're very sweet, and they're very childlike.
Yeah.
And then we had, I don't know if you remember, but we had Tony Hart.
I do. I love
Come onto
Tony
the
Hart.
shoot. I don't know what Tony Hart was supposed to do on the shoot, but I remember being, not terrified, it would be an exaggeration, but really concerned that Tony would go backstage and see you dressed up in bondage tape and everything else. Anyway, you would have probably loved it.
It was very bizarre, wasn't it? We had a lot of interesting elements on this set.
And how much, because that was very much, Katie Grand very much sort of created that sort of, stylistic element of that. But again, it does play into that sort of darker side of your persona.
Yeah.
So was she aware, was that a guess on her behalf, or that's why I say,
no,
is it something you learn?
I think it actually comes more from you in allowing that to come out of me.
Right.
I think Katie is so brilliant at picking up the subtleties of someone, and I don't know whether she really did, but I feel that, she understood that in me, but this was a chance to really draw it out and give me the freedom to do that with somebody like you. That's where Katie's brilliant, at putting people together and understanding that dynamic. And I was just so ecstatic to work with you, because I'd been such a fan of yours for so long, and I kind of knew that we would feel that together.
Yeah.
So, it was really fantastic. I love this shoot.
I mean, it certainly took these children's drawings
to a whole nother level.
To a completely different place, which I'm not quite sure what that place is, but it was the images that we produced together for it have always felt very special to me, but incredibly intense in how you modelled and what you did. And we have lots of little films from that, which are part of a project
them
on SHOWstudio, which is I film everything I do, and they're just little moments, little fragments of the fingernails on the lip, or a twist or a turn, or
the star that we found underneath my boob tape.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I remember so well, because I obviously didn't know you when I did this, but I remember you had a very sweet boy that it was his first day of working with you, and I think he was called Ben. But I was like literally naked, completely. I didn't have any clothes on when I first came on set, except for one of these cardboard things, and I was like looking at his face because it was new to me as well, and it was just a funny sort of dynamic. But it's so amazing, because I remember these like they're yesterday. I remember everything about them.
There's a little bit of film which means I've always had a particular sort of fascination, which is after being in the bondage tape for all day long. I mean, these are days which I guess we're not finishing until sort of midnight, and we're starting at about 9 in the morning, so they're long days.
Long days.
That you had been bondaged up in this tape pretty much all day long, and you cut it with a pair of scissors.
I don't forget that feeling of relief.
But you do physically put yourself through a lot when you model.
Oh my God, yes. That's what I'm saying, it's really hard. I remember I'd go home just shattered.
Yeah.
Just shattered, because you just let yourself go after that. And I think, I remember Rupert being really confused at how tired I was after the shoots. Because people just don't realise. People have no idea.
No. And people have no idea the days that you take on these things. I mean, this was probably a 2 or 3 day shoot, but some of the DO shoots are 7 days.
Yeah.
And if you're working with one model for 7 days, you've gone beyond exhausting that person and yourself.
Absolutely.
And I would often get home after a shoot and just cry.
Yeah.
Just because you're so physically drained and mentally drained. Yeah. It hurts. It's that painful.
Yeah.
And of course, that's where one wants to be. One wants to live one's life in a way where you're in touch with those emotions.
I agree.
And passion became, for me, and I'm guessing for you, a way to touch those emotions.
Yeah.
So it's things you can't do in real life, or not say you can't do, but things that are less acceptable to do in real life. You'd act out in a fantasy situation in here, which is the whole kind of magic of the
it really
fashion
is.
studio.
Yeah.